I think we'll go ahead and get started to make sure that we're respecting everyone's time and making the best use of it. So thank you everyone for joining us this morning. My name is Mike Brown. I'm with Keysight Technologies and I'm a major account manager for Keysight. I'm located in Macon, Georgia. And today we're going to be taking a little bit of a different direction from what you may have typically associated Keysight with. We have a couple of our new colleagues with Eggplant joining us today, and we're going to be introducing you to Eggplant. What is it? What does it do? Why should you care? And so a couple of the people who are joining me today, Kelly Kalk. Kelly is an account director for Eggplant. And then we also have Lee Frazier, I misspoke. Lee Frazier, who's a senior solutions architect, and he wanted me to remind you that senior means experienced and not old. So just keep that in mind while he's presenting. Anyway, so I'm going to hand it over to Kelly and Lee and let them handle the rest of the presentation. But once again, thanks everyone for joining. Quick housekeeping note, there is a chat window. So if you have questions that pop up in your mind during the presentation, feel free to type those in there and we will monitor that while the presentation is going on. So Kelly, over to you.
Thank you, Mike, and good morning, everybody. Lee, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we at Eggplant, we've been in the market for a number of years. We've been in business for about 17 years. Just want to let you know that we're not a new product to the market. We're very mature. We've got a lot of experience working with DoD systems, DoD agencies. So we've been around. We do have a number of programs that we support in all of the services: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and a handful of the defense agencies. Also, most of the major systems integrators use Eggplant as well for test automation. So we are known as a leader in the market for continuous intelligent test automation. We've got a very strong position in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and the Forrester Wave, which we can show you in a little bit. And we're about halfway over 600 customers at the moment. We've got quite a few Fortune 500 customers as well. Lee, next slide. Leslie, I'm thinking this might be a good place for one of the first polling questions, if you wouldn't mind.
Did you have one in particular, or just go with the first one?
The first one.
Okay.
So just wanted to take a poll quickly amongst the audience to see what types of testing people are doing. We're seeing a pretty large movement from manual testing to automated testing in DoD. I think there's quite a long way to go, but we're starting to see that change, and it's a challenging change. It's cultural. It's more than just technical. But the people that are doing automated testing are seeing quite a few benefits, not just financially, but also by time. So interested to see what the types of testing people are doing. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Sure. So this is this slide represents most of the use cases that we support in DoD and the intelligence community with Eggplant. We shine when we are testing embedded systems that are very complex. They're custom developed. They're very rich graphically, and they're either classified or proprietary. That's when we tend to be selected over our competition. If anybody wants to follow up after this call, we'd be happy to dig into any one of these use cases with you and go into more detail. But there's quite a few interesting programs that we support. Okay, next slide, Lee, please. Our largest customer in DoD and the Department of Defense is our largest and most cherished customer at Eggplant. We've got quite a big team supporting them, but our biggest customer in DoD is the Software Engineering Center at Aberdeen Proving Ground. And I actually need to update this slide. They are at about 85% test automation for roughly 200 systems in sustainment as of last week. Their goal is to be at 100% by the end of the fiscal year. So by the end of September of this year, they want to be 100% using test automation for about 200 systems, and they've seen quite a big benefit in time savings going from manual to automated testing. And again, we'd be happy to set up a customer reference call with the SEC and give you an idea how they use Eggplant. Lee, next slide, please. This is our position with the Gartner Magic Quadrant and the Forrester Wave. We've got quite a extensive development team that makes sure we maintain that position, and we're quite proud of it. Next slide, Lee. And over to you.
And that would be me. All right, so Eggplant really can automate your full digital experience. We'll read through a couple slides. Definitely, please, folks, ask questions via the chat window. Kelly and team are monitoring those, and they will interrupt me as we go through the demo. But we'll run through this, and then we'll hop over into real live stuff. But Eggplant can automate your full digital experience. We have a digital twin type of a model, and we'll look at that in more detail. We have the universal fusion engine that automates the processes, and then we focus on the business intelligence, allowing you to make better decisions based on better testing. The whole name of this was a more modern approach to automation, to testing beyond the test case, and that really is our focus. We'll talk about that in more detail, but getting beyond those test cases, better testing, giving you better intelligence, and then feeding all that down into your selected tools, whether you're using DevOps through Azure, or you're using Jira, whatever Git platform you have, or whatever CI/CD platform. We want to integrate, we want to drive information back into those underlying systems. We want to allow those systems to drive the execution of tests when a build has occurred, and really we want to be integrated to your entire process there. Focusing more on the digital twin, this is really where we get beyond test cases. When we focus on the model of your application, that really allows us to understand all the different potential pathways through the application. We'll look at a model in more detail, and we'll go through and how we modify one and change one and add one. But because of that model, I have the ability to lay on top of it all of these algorithms, this AI and machine learning. So I definitely can do regression testing. We're doing a regression pack AI or algorithm as part of your automated testing process here. We can do AI bug hunting, truly intelligent bug hunting, looking for patterns in your application where we see a bug once, looking throughout the rest of the application, looking for a similar pattern, or maybe a related developer as part of that as well. Looking more in depth at the coverage analysis so that we can understand how are we doing. If we're not just executing 300,000 individual test cases, yes, we support test cases and we can execute 300,000 test cases, but if we really giving you a better idea through that model that you've covered every possible journey, or you haven't, where your bugs are, where the issues are with the application. And we'll see that in action today as well. Real user journeys. We have the ability to instrument your production application to extract real user journeys, where your users are going throughout your application, and then drive those back into your development so that we can make sure that what's happening in production, the new application, the application under development can handle that same journey, that same path through. And then always change and defect monitoring for the changes, keeping track of the defects, feeding that information off to your tool of choice so that you have better information. And all of this really focused on the user journey. Again, test cases are great, we execute them, but understanding the possible user journeys, being able to execute all of those user journeys through your testing, so that when you get to the end of testing, you know you've been everywhere that a user can go. You've done everything in every order that a user could actually execute. And then ultimately, you know, this only works if we can work with every platform that you have, whether that's mainframe to mobile. I don't care if you're running Citrix, if you're running a specific type of browser or browser version, we really can automate anything. We've worked with the examples on the far right-hand side. We've worked with the F-35, the ground systems on the F-35. We've tested those. The NASA Orion spacecraft, we have, there's a paper out that you could search Eggplant and NASA Orion spacecraft, and you'll find a paper from NASA that they tested their systems with Eggplant. So really being able to test anything, anywhere, and really not just that it has to be one platform. Most of our customers end up doing something where it might be a web application that then needs to go for CAC authentication, that then needs to, or some multi-factor, that then needs to go off to a local desktop app that then might eventually go to a mainframe or what have you. And we really can automate that entire process and drive that through no matter what platform it's on. And then lastly, I realize I'm talking to a bunch of government customers, but this example is a real life example from Hallmark, one of our customers, that they were taking, and I'll play this, it'll go through. They have an online little feature where kids can go on there and make a card that looks like them. So they can send that off to grandma or whoever, but it can be exactly what they look like, their hair color, their hair length. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Do they have glasses? You know, everything about it. This could have potentially been hundreds of thousands of individual test cases to get through every individual pathway that was part of this. We made a model of this and gave them the peace of mind that, one, we've covered everything because they were able to see that through our coverage algorithms, but that it was easily tested via that model. We were able to get through everything, everywhere, confirm that it was possible, that someone didn't get in there and, you know, something didn't work because of the wrong color combination or what have you. So this is just a perfect example for the model and its functionality, its capability. You don't have to define those individual test cases or the different things. The model understands ultimately the different paths that you can go through the application and that they all need to be tested. All right. I have a good thing for everyone. That's the end of PowerPoint. So,
What do you want to do, another poll question?
Yes, I would like to, please.
All right.
Now, just as general commentary, when I say that's the end of PowerPoint, generally there's applause, but you know, just kidding. Anyway, so just trying to get more information on what testing you're doing today, and then we'll continue on. So it looks like so far 82% have plans to do, read the question right, 82% have plans to do automated testing, and it's gone down 75, and then 25 have not yet begun. So, all right. Let everybody finish voting there, but all right, excellent. So I wanted to run you through just a complete introduction to the interface and, you know, help you understand how Eggplant does what it does. This is a model of the application that is currently under test, and this is just a web app We don't own this web app. It is you're going to see it's a government, Alberta government website, but it involves a map. It's not just your straight, drop downs, list boxes. It's much more complex. So you'll see that in a moment. But this is the model of that application. The green box is simply a setup, getting started, starting up, choosing the browser, so it doesn't matter which browser we're using, and then entering the URL. And then the purple boxes, at least they're purple on my screen, those are the top level, those are the screens you can go to, with the gray boxes being the things you can do on those screens. So in my example here, this is a top level navigation menu with a navigation tab or a go to location that goes off to another page, and then you can do similar actions on those following pages. So it's just a simple model. Now, what we can do here is, just because I have this model, I can look at this and say, show me the coverage of this model. And it brings up a heat map so that you can see, well, this is everywhere we've been. We've touched everything, so it looks like we're at a good start, but we haven't done go to address as well as we would like. We don't have, it's not dark coverage there. If we want to also see, well, where have our failures been occurring, we can click on failures and it will automatically show you where our failures have been happening. And you can see that they've been happening right when we enter the URL. Maybe the application wasn't available, maybe there was some unexpected screen as part of the application, what have you. But this gives you a good idea where our problems are occurring, how's our coverage going, and then allowing you to then make informed decisions on that. And we'll see these in more detail as we go through as well. And then lastly, before we get into actually executing some of these, I can go and view my coverage report. And the coverage report, reads from the top, looks like we've got 92% coverage. We've been to all 9 states, which those are the screens, the screens we can go to. And we've been to all 17 actions for those screens. So we've got good coverage. This is our all nodes, which basically means, have we been everywhere? Have we done everything? But I can drop this down and I can go to all pairs. Now this is everywhere I can get to this item from, and everywhere I can go from this item to. So it's a two-step process as part of this one. And you can see that the coverage drops off a little bit. We were at 92, now we're at 69. And now we're discovering, hey, there's 64 paths part of this application. Well, we've still been to every state and every screen, which is great, but we just don't have the path coverage that we need. And then lastly, we can go into extended, which is 3 and 4 steps, or full exploratory, which is what we'll look at. And full exploratory, that's every possible path through the application. And this isn't something that I've discovered. It discovered 572 paths through the application. It has said that we've only covered 17% of the application, and I can look through any of these. I can see my go-to location. It has automatically discovered all of these different paths that we have not covered yet. These aren't test cases. This isn't something that I've manually entered in here. This is simply because I know through the model that this is a possible path, and since it is possible, inevitably a user is going to try it. So giving you that path by discovery, so that when we get through, you're going to see that all of these things have been actually accomplished. All right.
Hey, Lee, we do have one question in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
From Stas, it's, have you had experience in automating LabVIEW-based GUI applications?
LabVIEW-based GUI applications. I mean, to us, it really, let me pause. One of the key features that was listed as a call out, excuse me, as part of this webinar, was that we don't install that. Understanding how we're non-intrusive, Eggplant is non-intrusive to the testing, so I don't have to install anything on your lab-based system to test that web-based application. If you're meaning that it's completely disconnected from the internet, yes, we have examples where we've done that, completely air-gapped and been able to test the application with no access to the internet and still be a GUI or a web application. Let me know if that doesn't answer your question, please. But yeah, Eggplant doesn't install anything on the underlying system. We can test a system, whether if it's Linux, we can do VNC to it. If it's Windows, we RDP to it. If it has some proprietary interface, generally we're able to IP KVM to via that interface and connect to it and test that application. So, generally we're able to test. Well, not generally, we're always able to test everything without actually installing anything onto the underlying system.
And Lee, this is Mike. I'll just jump in to help clarify that. So LabVIEW is a specific programming environment that's used for automating the use of test instrumentation. So from, I guess, my understanding of Eggplant is that would not be an issue. It still runs on a Windows-based PC typically, and we'd be able to interact with any of the user interfaces or any of that the same we would with any other programming interface, correct?
That's correct. We don't care about the underlying system, honestly. We are interacting with the application as a user would. So we're using the mouse, we're looking for text on the screen, we're looking for images on the screen, we're interacting with the same APIs that the user would be interacting with, and that gives us some key benefits. It really, and one of them, Mike, that you just mentioned, it doesn't matter that application, if there's a GUI to it that I can drive on a Windows PC via Linux VM, it doesn't really matter. Then we're going to be able to drive that and interact with the application. All right, so we will then continue on. I wanted to show you test cases. We definitely support test cases. This was not just to poo-poo test cases and say, oh, we're beyond that now. We definitely understand that you have to make sure that you can get from point A to point B through your application, and we support that. Your test cases could assume that the application's already up and functioning and you're logged in, but I'm going to set one up from scratch where I have to start up the application, choose the browser, enter the URL, I'm going to navigate to a tab and then zoom out, and that's my test case. I can give it a name here. Let's just do that. All right. I click off of it, it automatically saves it. Now I can go off to my test cases here, and you could have hundreds, thousands of test cases in here that test your base functionality, the fact that you can get from point A to point B. I could select one individual, I could select multiples, or I could select everything in my list and say, just go ahead and execute this, and then go to lunch or go home for the night. I'm just going to run this one so you can see it actually execute. So I can play it, go back to our model so you can see it executing through, and then you can see my system under test over here, just a Windows VM that we've connected into through RDP, and it's choosing the browser. It looks like it's opened Chrome, it's confirming Chrome's open, now it's entering the URL and driving that information. And then before it actually hands it off to do the testing, it's going to confirm that the website is up and ready for information. So this bottom window over on the right-hand side, you're going to see it's going to give you a running total of what it's doing when it has a problem. If it has a problem, it's going to annotate that here, and then we'll get a pass or fail in this bottom window on the left-hand side over here as well. So it looks like it was able to do that. Looks like it passed, no problem here. And the nice thing, the key takeaway, I didn't have to be a developer to set that test case up. Because we have a model, if I understand the application and the linear journey through that application that I want to test, then I can do it via point and click. So very easy, very straightforward to be able to set those up and to execute those. Now, on top of that, because we have the model, those are test cases. The model gives us the additional functionality. What I'd like to do is just set this up to play. I'm not going to give it a test case. I'm not going to give it anything necessarily that it needs to do. I'm going to let the machine learning and the AI make the decision for what it does next. And what Eggplant will do is decide what's the next best action to get me to the next level of coverage or to get through this next path and complete this area. It's going to make the decisions through that. Now, we do this just to back up. Everyone knows that your users end up using the application exactly the way your developers expected it to, and everyone uses it the exact same way, right? Well, of course not. If we take the example of your favorite online mobile shopping, you know, we all put something in our cart, we all put a ship to a credit card, and then we select OK, and we have it shipped to us, right? No. We might put 15 things in the cart, we save 5 of them for later, we delete the rest of them, we put something else. You know, then we remember just before we purchase, we need to set something else up for work that we need to purchase. That's a different credit card. And then we might need something for our cousin Johnny that around the corner or next state over. That's going to take a next new ship to address. So it's a valid linear journey, but it's not something you generally ever get a test case for. That's what our exploratory is going to be able to do. If it's an optional path, it's going to go through and navigate to it and actually execute it. So we'll see. This window down here will have a problem, and it's already occurred a couple times, but the script is able to self-heal. So there you see the orange. It couldn't find an object, so it went into auto update, and by default then started looking around the screen for that object. Now, the whole point of this, I could make this script run perfectly without any errors, but the point of this is something changed. The text on the font changed, might have changed location, it might have changed the actual size of the font, the color, the image might have changed, and been given a different background for what we're trying to click on. All those different things, it really doesn't matter. Eggplant, if something has changed, it says, okay, let me go into auto update mode and look around the application as a user would do. Eggplant's not going to care that the font style, the font name changed or the font size changed, like a user won't. If you develop a new version of the application and the login button moves, your users can still find it. So can Eggplant. And that's really a key functionality here. Notice that this is a complete web-based, but it's also got a map. The map doesn't have a DOM. It truly doesn't. There's nothing behind there that you're going to be able to gather or to look at just as part of a typical application. That's why I select it. That's why I like to show that, because it's difficult. It's not your typical. It's something that a lot of our competition would actually struggle with. Pardon me.
Lee, do you want to do a poll question?
Let's do a poll question. Yes, sir. We're at the half-hour point. There you go. Do you currently have any automated testing transformational projects underway? That'll be an easy poll. It's a yes, no fill in the blank. All right. We'll give it a few more seconds here, and then we'll continue on. For some reason, I'm thirsty.
Okay.
All right, excellent. Good feedback. Thanks, guys. And I'm from the Northeast, so guys means people. Sorry. So that exploratory testing, it's not random. When I click play on this, it's going to go through and say how many, you can have it select how many iterations you want it to go through, but it truly is not random. It's going through the intelligence that we have behind this, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, knowing where it's been, knowing what hasn't been touched, and really doing that. We have a couple different test case, a couple different algorithms that we use that I want to mention. One is that I've already mentioned is the AI bug hunting. The truly intelligent bug hunting, looking around the application for patterns when it finds a bug, looking for that same pattern around other parts of the application. If we're hooked into your code repository, knowing who developed that code that we found the bug in that area, and then going around the application looking for similar issues to see if the bug permeated other areas of the code. Really, truly doing that more intelligently and not just not basic, just looking for a problem. So we definitely have the AI bug hunting. The other one I want to mention is really our test case algorithm. And the test case algorithm focuses on the test cases that you build to indicate that it needs to function between point A and point B. That I get. Everything needs to, you need to make sure you get the job done. But what our test case algorithm does is say, we're still going to get from point A to point B, but let me go through and exercise all of the possible paths to get from point A to point B, to do all the things that are possible as part of that journey, so that at the end of the day, your users, if it's possible, they're going to do it at one point or another, to make sure that you can release it and still have it function, no matter if you tested the exact scenario that your users are going to be using or not. Eggplant's done that. Eggplant has explored that test case to include all of the things that are possible for that application. And then the last one, go ahead.
Sorry, we have another question in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
How would your model support test automation where dependent systems are distributed across networks?
Distributed across networks. So that's an in-depth question. I would have to say that if we can access all those different parts of the network from one machine, then we could do that. If that's potentially something that we need to complete our testing, hand off a result, and then kick off testing at another location, that might be part of the solution as well. But honestly, I would have potentially more questions about that question before I could answer it and give something that was probably satisfactory.
Thanks, Lee.
All right. Excellent. Okay. The last thing that I want to mention is we had run through, as part of this, we've run through the exploratory testing. Let's go back to all nodes here. So no big change here. We've gone up by 2%. But if I go into the all pairs, you can see we've gone now to 42 paths that we've actually crossed. And then I could look at this full exploratory to see, we're getting closer to that 572. We're getting a better, we've had 9 runs, we're getting a better pass fail rate, etc. So you're able to see those different journeys. We've covered the lat report, and it looks like in 100%, and we're working on different things. So you're able to see that. You're able to see the results as you go through the executions as part of that. So that's Eggplant really in discovery mode, just allowing it to run in discovery and exploratory mode. Now, one of the first questions that generally comes up, because I've talked so much about the model, is great, but how do you make this thing, or how do you change it? Well, we have the capability to just right click in the background here anywhere, whether this is a existing or whether I want to create a new one, and create a new state, new screen that we're going to be going to, or maybe I want to add an action. I could say that, this top level navigation screen, I could highlight it. Move this over here. I could highlight this and say, add a new action. It would add it into this area, or I could just make something brand new, and then I can link those things to the actual items over here, the snippets, the code that we develop in the background to actually make those things function. This can be, so I can create this by hand as just through the menu here, or I can record this as you're going through your application as well. So we have the ability to record, and if you have a diagram of your application, we have imported those as well to kind of get you kick-started so that we understand the different parts of the application and get those imported. So a couple different ways we can import those. And then you know, definitely not last, but being able to, let me make this full screen, being able to get in here and see, well, how are we doing on our coverage? Looks like 94%, but a full exploratory is only 20%, allowing you to see the reporting. How are we doing for the execution? We've had a lot of failures looking at the test runs, the test results. Well, recently it's passing, but it was failing. Why did it fail? Let me view the details. Here are the steps we went through, not many. Here's the entire log. And oh, by the way, here's a screenshot. This is exactly what happened. Oh, it turns out there was an unexpected terms of use that maybe development just put forward, or for whatever reason, it just started to populate. Maybe I need to add that to my script to handle that possibility, or maybe I just need to, you know, it's never going to happen again. I've accepted the terms and it'll never happen again. But giving you the information and a screenshot. By the way, we can also do videos. You can record screenshots anywhere through the application to just show that you actually have been here and it did work, but giving you that reporting capability here.
Lee, we have another question in the chat, if this is a good time.
Sure.
How does the model interface to the system under test?
Right, so the model is interfacing to the system under test really via RDP. We have a connection that the model will generally indicate that it wants to connect to. You're going to select it as part of your the model. It might connect to a Windows system. It might connect to a Linux system. It might be a random thing you go to. Your application works on both, so you could go to either one. But yeah, the model will select that and then open up that RDP session. So if I go back, this is not truly RDP. This is Eggplant RDPing into that box. So that's how we're truly interacting. We're driving the same APIs that that RDP uses and a user uses when they RDP into the application. All right. And guys, if that doesn't answer your question, please feel free to ask additional questions and clarify, and I will do my best to continue to answer that for you.
Yeah, and anybody wants to dig deeper, just shoot us an email and we'd be happy to set up a meeting next week or two.
Yep. And then lastly, what I wanted to show you as part of the dashboard is more of a graphical coverage model. So it shows you how many runs you had, how much testing time. It looks like I need to be a little bit more diligent and executing my automation here. What are our pass fails? And then this is what I love. When are we going to get to 90% coverage for all the different models that I have here? So we've got about 2.5 hours, 2.25 hours or so to get to full exploratory 90% coverage, giving you that idea, giving you that concept. So now, you know, if this was 22 days, I could run this across multiple systems under test so that I could execute this and get it done quicker. And our controller here allows me to schedule this. I can schedule it to go out after multiple SUTs and to happen in off hours, so that at the end of the day, when I sign out, Eggplant takes over and starts running my tests for me automatically. The last thing we wanted to really show and talk about, well, why don't we take I think our last poll question, right?
Yeah, we should have one more.
Yes.
Our last poll question, and then we'll go into the last feature that was mentioned in the teaser, RPA. And the appropriate question, I love it. So do you have any plans to build robotic process automation applications? So all right, so I'll let it continue as I talk, but RPA is really, as the slide mentions here, robotic process automation. You're either familiar with it or you're not, and either way is fine. But because Eggplant has this capability, This isn't something that we license as additional. This isn't something that you have to get some additional code for to turn on certain areas of Eggplant. This is because Eggplant functions as it does, we're able to drive in an automated fashion your application. So robotic process automation is really good at the repetitive tasks that humans aren't. When you need to confirm numbers from a PDF to an online system, when you need to screen scrape an application and then drive it into your online system. For whatever reason, you don't have access to the underlying data. Pardon me. So that's really where it's good and where it functions. I'm going to close this so I'm not full screen anymore. And this is still DAI, Digital Automation Intelligence, our Eggplant DAI, but this time there's no additional paths. As you can see, there's one linear journey through the application, which is fine. It's simply going to execute and drive this as I have already set it up to do. So in this case, we're going to be executing a Georgia Secretary of State application looking for different licenses and then driving that into my test Salesforce system. It's going to simply go through and set everything up for us. I could swear I turned off my email. Do the sorting for us, and then it's going to start looking through, looking for licenses, license numbers, clicking on the actual user, screen scraping. And the nice thing about this is this information can change. Notice that this person only has two lines in their address field. We gather all the information. The first time we start up Salesforce. Log in. By the way, that password is encoded, so it's not in clear text in the script, because you never want to have passwords in clear text. And then we log in here and enter a new contact and drive that same user's information that we just collected off the web page into the username and first and last name here. Fill out the additional information and then click the save button, and then we'll be on our way. So we make it part of the email address as well, and then click save. This is going to do this 3 times, but the second time as it goes through, it won't open Salesforce again. It's just part of the script that it realizes, hey, Salesforce is already open, and then it continues on. So this user has 3 lines as part of their address, so everything is shifted. Everything could be moved further on the page, really, and Eggplant is keyed in to take advantage of that and to understand where the fields are and intelligently gather the information. So I could make this quicker, but filling out all the additional information is all about whatever you want to do. But this is robotic process automation. It wouldn't have to be completely online systems. This could be some local system to you, and transferring data over. We can write this information. I'm writing it out to a CSV file, as you can see here, but we could be writing this information out to a database. We could just not be writing it out at all, but just collecting it and then using it somewhere else, so we don't keep a record of that anywhere. It really is truly up to you, and it all works because Eggplant. Eggplant is an intelligent tool that is able to understand what you truly want it to understand, and look around the application, gathering the appropriate information and driving that through to the end goal, in this case, entering it into Salesforce. So, all right, it'll finish that one, click save, and then it just cleans everything up. And, as you would expect a robot to do, that you've set up and to do a job and to do it cleanly. It'll confirm that actually saved, and then it will close both screens and then continue on. So just to cover a couple things, we looked at Eggplant and really being a more modern approach. We definitely support test cases, don't get me wrong, but having a digital twin, having a model of the application is really important, and hopefully you've seen the reasons why. We discover the individual paths through the application. We looked at how Eggplant does this completely with no being unobtrusive, if is that a word. We don't install anything on the underlying systems. We can automate your systems under test without installing anything, and therefore without uninstalling anything before it goes production. And then being able to do RPA just because we're Eggplant. Your system functions already. There's nothing additional to license. It just works. So hopefully you found this beneficial. Kelly, were there any additional questions?
Let me see. I don't see any. We might have one more. Got a kudo to Lee. Great presentation, Lee. Thank you. Excellent product. Looks like we have one more from Gilbert. Is it able to test firmware in the same way it does apps?
So firmware, if there's a GUI that we can get to, it doesn't have to be just command. It can be command line. It doesn't have to be a GUIs. It could doesn't have to be a web app or a thick client. I've got some scripts that run on Linux that do complete command line interface. So if we can get to that information there, then yes, we could do the firmware, but it has to be somewhere that we can get to it via VNC RDP.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys, I'm happy to do a follow-on session with anyone and really dive deep. We didn't look at the code behind the scenes, but I'm happy to do that with anyone. This is really just trying to get you focused on what Eggplant is, what's possible with Eggplant, and go from there. But thanks for your attendance, and unless there's any other questions.
So Lee, this is Mike. I'm gonna break in real fast and just remind everyone that I think when you sign out, you're going to get a very brief survey evaluation. So we would certainly appreciate if you would fill that out before you go. We thank you for attending, and yeah, good job, Lee.
Thanks.
So we're good?
I think so, Leslie. Anything else? Did we forget anything?
Nope, I think you did a great job. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks for putting it together. Thanks, everybody, for your
Okay,
time.
thank you. Have a great day.
Please reach out if you want to dig deeper or get another demo. Happy to set up a meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.